Our next topic is called survivorship bias. It's a common stats topic in something like stat360 is to study the stock market. And students say, well, I want to think about this stock and that stock and track their performance. So in your head right now, say if you were going to study the stock market, which stocks would you include in your study? Do you have your list? So most people would say Google and Apple and Facebook. Of course, that'll probably sound horribly outdated 10 years from now. But what stocks did you not list? I've got a secret list of stocks here that I'm pretty sure you did not list. Has anyone ever heard of Enron? They were engaged in massive financial fraud and were basically forced out of business. There used to be an airline called TWA, they went bankrupt. There used to be an airline called PSA, they went bankrupt. Same thing with Continental and Northwest. Digital Equipment Corporation used to be a big computer manufacturer. You don't hear about them anymore. There's lots of old car brands that you don't hear about anymore. So basically, we don't think of these days because they went bankrupt years ago. But if the only stocks you think of are stocks that exist today, then your rate of bankruptcy in the stocks you look at is going to be zero because you haven't considered any stocks that already went bankrupt. So you're going to be massively underestimating the chance that a company goes bankrupt. So how do you avoid survivorship bias in studying the stock market? You might pick an initial time, like 30 years ago, and look at what stocks existed then, and randomly pick from among those. You don't want to just pick the ones from that list that you know about, because those are probably the ones that still survive to today. So survivorship bias is a big important thing. And then our last topic is meta-analysis, and that deals with the fact that when a study is small, it's hard for it to kind of make a discovery. But if you aggregate a bunch of small studies, you can kind of get enough sample size to discover important things. So there's an organization called Cochrane that does meta-analysis, and one of their first meta-analyses was on a steroid that was given to women who were about to give birth too early, and each of the little studies of it hadn't shown much, but if you aggregate them all, it shows that it has a 30 to 50% reduction in death for the young baby. This is their logo, and it's showing like here's the confidence interval for one study, here's the confidence interval for another study, and for another, and for another, and for another. And then if you aggregate all of those, you get a confidence interval that's much skinnier, and you can make a statistical conclusion. So this is called a blobogram or a forest plot. We're not going to do any meta-analyses in stat360, but it's a nice idea, kind of a big topic. Is it okay to allow cars to turn right on a red light? People did a bunch of studies and didn't find any statistically significant effect. But if you look at a meta-analysis, then it does seem that it increases the odds of accidentally hitting a pedestrian. Now you might notice that the idea of a meta-analysis of aggregating studies where nothing had been statistically significant is related to the problem of multiple comparisons. Back on that sheet, we said that it would be nice, or the publication bias. You can't do a meta-analysis if these studies never get published, right? So that's another reason we want to fight against publication bias. But here I had said, wouldn't it be nice if later researchers had known that all the previous studies didn't find a statistically significant effect, and they could go study something else? So there's tension there. Do you want to do another study on something that seems promising, even if you know the previous results didn't turn out, because you could be contributing to a meta-analysis that might eventually find something? So there's that tension there.